Welcome, everyone, to Authenticity with Alicia, the podcast where we explore burnout, the pressures of society, and our quest for identity and authenticity. I'm Alicia, and today we're joined by Olivia Pham, who's a fellow LMFT. We are kind of few in this world, and she specializes in perinatal mental health, which is a super needed service, huge gap in our society, I think, and really just so excited to have you here, really being able to share some of these experiences that these women go through, because I know there's just a lack of resources for folks. And just thank you for taking time out of your day.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
Awesome. Well, for folks who don't know, I don't think I sent you this question ahead of time, but what is perinatal mental health for folks who may be listening and it's like they maybe have heard of it, but like, what
Mhm.
is that?
Yeah. Okay, so there's a few different pieces that I like to pick apart with this. So one of them is perinatal mental health encompasses everything in the perinatal period, which the perinatal period is like anywhere from trying to conceive all the way through postpartum, which is there really an end to the postpartum time? I personally don't really believe that there is. And so that's the entire span that it covers. And then we also use the term PMADS. So that stands for perinatal mood and anxiety disorders. So that includes what we commonly refer to as postpartum depression. It's more so perinatal depression because we know that that can show up more postpartum or in the pregnancy stage as
Yeah.
well as postpartum. And then you've also got perinatal anxiety and perinatal OCD, and bipolar can actually show up all of the times, and psychosis, things like that, birth
Yeah.
trauma as well. So it's all encompassing, really.
I really love that though, because, I think some people, maybe a lot of people have heard the postpartum depression,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe if they're really like into mental health, maybe postpartum anxiety.
Right.
But that's the postpartum piece. Like once the
Mm-hmm.
baby is here and you're like, oh, well, you have this flood of hormones and all these changes. And it's like, but these things are actually happening before that.
Oh, yeah.
And, we don't have that language, or we didn't have that language yet of, hey, you might be experiencing some of these things while you're pregnant, while you're trying
Mm-hmm.
to conceive, while there's a whole journey that starts before the child is even, they've given birth to it. And so I'm so glad that there is kind of this umbrella thing because there was nothing,
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking
Yeah.
of different like generations ago when they didn't have any of that language.
Yeah. And I think social media has done a lot to help kind of get the word out there. Also we have to recognize like the negative aspects of social media, right?
Mhm.
But even I had my first kiddo a year ago, a little bit over a year ago. And even as a therapist, I didn't really think that perinatal anxiety, postpartum anxiety was even a thing.
Yeah.
And so to realize that the whole gamut is true, whoa, okay, we need to do a little bit more education on
Right.
this, to kind of get the word out and bring awareness to it. So, yeah.
1000%. No, I can't. I mean, obviously, confidentiality, but I had a client who was in like the medical field,
Mhm.
and they
Yeah.
were like, I knew of some things, and to
Mhm.
go through it and to experience it is so different. And they were
Oh, yeah.
like, I didn't know if I was normal, if this was like what to expect. No one educated me on this, here. And I'm just like, we need more resources for these things. Because if you are experiencing this, I know other people are. And yeah, like you're a trained professional, you're a trained counselor,
Mhm.
and like we're taken aback by some of these things.
Yeah,
What
definitely.
are some of those common like themes or patterns that maybe women might experience during that perinatal stage?
Mhm. So I think of some like common thought processes that, women, I myself even included in this, have had. And so one of those thoughts is like, I feel like I'm a bad mom. I feel like I'm a
Mm,
bad mom if I do this. It's like the common theme that always pops up. And it's like, whoa, hold on. You're not a bad mom. I
yeah.
can promise you that. It's really just, okay, tends to be one of two things.
Hmm.
One of them is like you're not feeling good enough, or you're feeling that you don't measure up to whatever high standards that you probably have. Or two, it's okay, did you respond or react in a way to your children or to your partner or to somebody that's supporting you and that made you feel like guilty or shameful
Ah,
and feeling like you're a bad mom? And so it's like, okay, let's work through that
mm,
because you're not a bad
yeah.
mom. Because I firmly believe that you are the perfect parent for your children.
Mm.
We may just have to tweak a few things on the soundboard every now and then in therapy, but you're exactly who you need to be.
Yes.
So,
Oh, I love that. Oh, that just like makes my heart like have a little hug in that. I was telling Olivia before we started recording, like, I don't even have kids and her website's amazing. And I was like, this is speaking to me and I'm not even a mom. So I'm going to do an early plug for folks to like immediately after this go check out her
oh,
website. But I love how compassionate that is, right? Because how many people are, the comparison game and beating themselves up and going through all these changes and hormones and just everything that's going
mhm.
on and saying like, well, you're exactly what you need to be doing right now and you're exactly who you are meant to be. Not saying that, okay, that doesn't mean, we're going to make mistakes and we're going to have our human moments, I like to call them, but that doesn't mean that you're a bad parent. Like, there's a lot of gray there that we can kind of like dive into and explore a little bit.
Definitely. Yeah. And everybody changes as well. And the goal is to hopefully change and evolve to be better and
Yeah,
not worse than you were before. So,
right.
yeah,
Ugh,
definitely.
I know I talk a lot about self-compassion and it's like, we aren't making excuses or, trying to,
Yeah.
let ourselves off the hook if we do have one of our human moments. But if I'm beating myself up, calling myself these really rigid, strict labels, that's probably not going to be great either. Instead of like saying, "Ooh, I didn't know what I needed to do in that moment. And I don't really like how I felt after that, or I didn't like how they responded. Let me slow this down next time. And what can I learn? And how can I be in line with the person that I want to be?" Well, that's a lot kinder and still motivating then gosh, I'm such this awful insert whatever label here.
Exactly. Yeah. Like there's always ways that you can continue to improve. So, yeah, definitely. Like, you're not a bad parent. I don't, pretty much, for the most part, I don't care who you are. You're not a bad parent.
And I feel like, and maybe this is because I don't have children, like I feel like if you're worried about if you're a bad
Mm.
parent, you're
Yeah,
probably a good parent. Like I
exactly.
don't like to judge other parenting styles that I don't have kids, but I'm like, I don't
Mhm.
think bad parents are going to care if they're meeting their children's needs.
Right. Yeah. You're not even thinking about that, I feel like. So,
So like
yeah.
you're where you need to be. I love
Yeah.
that. And yeah,
Exactly.
that guilt and that shame. I know I've had some clients who that can be
Mhm.
a deep spiral there. So just sounds like therapy can be a really exploratory space to like kind of let some of those walls down and be like, this is what I'm feeling, this is what I'm thinking. And you're like, no, you're good. Like you're not alone.
Yes.
I see you, I
Yeah.
hear you.
Yes, yeah, definitely. And then another one, like another thought that a lot of the times comes up is, okay, how am I going to do this? How am I going to be, the parent that I want to be? Can
Yeah.
I even do this? And this pops up in pregnancy and in postpartum. So
Yeah.
it's like that anticipation for 9, 10 months of like, oh my gosh, am I actually ready for this? I thought I was ready for this, but I'm not sure, but I can't go back. And then once baby is here, I feel like you're in the hospital, you're doing your thing. And it's like, oh my gosh, is this going to be the rest of my life? Am I going to be able to do this? Like, these are daunting thoughts that can come to mind.
That
Um,
sounds like very overwhelming.
you would think, yeah, just a little bit. And it's like, no, it doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be that. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be incredibly overwhelming. And, most people experience these thoughts.
Mhm.
Now, can some people get a little carried away and become a little unhealthy and things like that? Of course. That's why we have therapists that specialize in this area. But yeah, so whether it's um, adding in support like therapy or I think of these things of like, can I do this? or how is this going to work or things like that. It's like, okay, maybe sometimes these things have to be a game time decision. Like I
Mm,
can't overthink this. I can't, ruminate on it too much. So it's like, okay, let's do it. Let's make a game time decision. Let's go
yes.
for it. So,
Oh, I love that idea. Like not every like well, 'cause I can imagine. I'm a cat mom and I'm a
mhm.
helicopter cat mom. And so I'm like, I know I would be full of anxiety with a
Yeah.
human child. So it's
Mhm.
like you are responsible for another life. Like there's some legitimate, like, it's okay to have a little bit of that worry and anxiety and thinking about these things. Again, that's in the normal range.
Mhm.
But it's not helpful always to be hijacked by that, right? And to be going down these endless what ifs. I'm going to overthink, have to make the perfect decision. Like that's where it sounds like that could be maybe less helpful and turn more into an overwhelming space. And it's like,
Yes.
okay, like let's slow it down. Not everything needs to be decided right now. We're going to trust our gut in that moment, and that's going to be okay.
Yeah, yeah. It brings me to one of the Instagram reels that's going around a lot these days is like, you only have 18 summers with your kids. And it's like, do you really need to think about the 17 other summers that you have with your 1 year old right now? Like, is that going to help you?
Right. And
Probably
like, and
not.
then it's not taking away from the message of like trying to be
Exactly.
present with this. Like it's actually
Yes.
fueling, well, now I'm anxious that, okay, this needs to be the best first summer they've
Yes.
ever had. And it's like,
Yeah.
whoa, whoa, whoa.
Yeah.
Be
And then it
present,
goes back to, am I a bad mom for like not, it's just like this
right?
constant thought. So
Can't
yeah.
win. Oh,
Mhm. Yeah.
that sounds awful. That kind of makes me think. So one of the things that I'm always curious about, I'm a narrative therapist. And so like, what are some of these like social factors that may play into, women comparing themselves or not feeling good enough? Like we're not just born with these thoughts of, oh, I'm going to be a bad mom. Like we learn these things from places. And so do you have any ideas of like with your own experience or with the clients that you work with, where the heck are we getting these ideas from?
Mhm. So I narrowed it down to two things. One, I mean, they're probably both not surprising to anybody, to be honest with you. One I've already touched on is the social media aspect. It plays a role in the expectations that us moms put on ourselves. We like to feel like we should parent this certain way, like gentle parenting is having its day right now. Um, and then finding the perfect baby stroller system because they're all systems these days, and then finding the perfect bouncer and things like that, and it's like,
Mhm.
whoa,
And
holy
the key word
cow.
I'm hearing too is perfect.
You know what, you're exactly right.
Because, oh, there has to be this right one. If I
Yes.
have this perfect stroller, then I'm going to
Mhm.
suddenly be the best mom. I'm going to have all this support, and life is going to be so easy. And if you don't have this stroller and
You're
the life
doing,
that I have on Instagram, you must be doing something wrong.
yeah, yeah. And so it's like, I'm not good enough
Mm,
because I don't have this and this.
mhm,
No, absolutely not. Like, we can get by with little to nothing pretty much, as long as certain things allow us in that newborn stage. So, um, yeah. So, um, if you don't have that particular bouncer, that particular toy doesn't work to help your baby meet their milestones, now we're left with moms feeling all this guilt and shame because it must have been something that, oh, I did this wrong or
mm,
I didn't do something good enough or things like that. So that's just a constant cycle of like not feeling good enough. and
yeah.
and it also goes to, like, I do follow a lot of social media influencers because I think their lives are interesting, which I guess plays into this. But time and time again I hear, oh, you only see the perfect, you only see the good on social
Mhm.
media, and I'm not showing you the bad because I don't want to video my kids tantrums. It's like, okay,
Mhm.
thank you for that, thank you for respecting their privacy and everything. But when you don't see something for long periods of time or at all, you just don't think about it. And so,
Yeah.
whenever you don't see an influencer's bad moments or their kids' bad moments, you forget that they actually have those. And so,
Mhm.
it's this constant narrative of well, everybody else is better than me.
Mm.
Everybody else is such, a perfect parent, a wonderful parent.
Yeah.
It's like, no, like you're portraying what you want to portray.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, I talk about that a lot of I am pretty active on social media. I think there's a lot of positive aspects
Yes.
to it of raising awareness, finding community, but it's all how it's used. And so if we're using it in that way and, curating a realistic feed and, monitoring our time and being intentional with what we do, there's nothing, I think, wrong with
Right.
that. A lot of us aren't using it that way, and it's easy to start. Sometimes I'm like, I'm going to do my little 5 minute social media break,
Yeah.
and then 5 minutes turns into 35 minutes, and I'm down this rabbit hole. And we can kind of like zone out. And now suddenly we're like, oh, I'm having a really hard day, and
Yeah.
life is chaotic right now, and I'm tired, and I'm not feeling good about myself. And now the last 10, 15, 20 minutes, maybe an hour plus,
Hmm.
I'm only seeing these curated,
Yeah.
perfect families, and that's going to eat at us. We're going to
Hmm.
compare ourselves. That's going to, go deeper into those insecurities. That's going to be like, well, why can't I have this?
Yeah.
My life is chaotic. Why can't I have this?
Hmm. Or I don't have this, and so like,
Mm.
okay, well, what's the point? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm also I get trapped in the social media
Oh, yeah.
bubble, in the black hole, as I
Oh,
call it.
yeah.
Sometimes
Therapists,
I
we're
will
human
just,
too.
exactly. Sometimes I'll just sit there and like, okay, after dinner, I'm gonna, scroll Instagram for 5 or 10 minutes, and I'm gonna get up and do something that I
Never
actually want to do.
5 minutes.
And then I text my husband, I'm like, okay, well, 2 hours got by. I'm like, no, like I just wasted my entire evening. But
Yeah.
it is what it is, and
It
that's okay.
happens.
So
It
yeah,
happens.
it's all good.
You
So
said there were two things. So social
yeah.
media definitely, yeah, not a
Mhm.
surpriser there of, we can get into that comparison game, seeing these curated influencers. Was there another one?
Yeah. So the community that you have around you.
Mhm.
So think the lovely mother-in-laws out there. There are some good ones. I can bet on that. But mother-in-laws are notorious, unfortunately, for just like constantly doing little things, saying little things, to beat mama up, or not, maybe not intentionally even,
Mhm.
but it's all in the way it's perceived by mom, because
Mhm.
hormones are going crazy. We typically don't have straight and real thoughts at that moment
Yeah.
postpartum. It's kind of a wild, foggy time, and so things can get portrayed differently.
Mhm.
So parents, in-laws, really just anybody around mom, can just constantly eat at mom, the way that she thinks about herself, and oh, you're not doing this, oh, should I be doing that, like things like
Mhm.
that. And it's just like, hey, can we just be gentle in this time, be
Yeah.
supportive, listen to mom instead of
Mhm.
flooding her
Right.
with
Trust that
all this
they
stuff.
know what they are doing and like it's gonna be okay. That's such a good point. And I agree. I think, I doubt, I mean, I'm sure there's some that are maliciously just
Yeah,
like
for sure.
making non-helpful comments. But I do think a lot of times like it comes from a caring place. Like the
Yeah,
mother-in-law cares about, her family and then the grandkids. They were probably raised doing a certain way, like doing something a
exactly.
certain way, and they think that they're being helpful,
Mhm.
and it's not. And so, all good points of, yeah, like probably not using like list like having the attention to like interpret their messages and think
Mhm.
about all that perspective taking. And when it's conflict, there's so many choices, I feel like, with parenting, and there's so many options and decisions you have to make that if someone makes a different one, then it's like, oh, well, to almost like justify ourselves and second guess
Yes.
ourselves, and oh, well, they did this, so I mean I'm doing it wrong. Is this way less than, is my kid gonna be okay? And it's just like I
Yeah.
just like opened up a gate of anxiety, and I'm like, I don't have children. So like, yeah, that's a total good point of the community
Yeah.
that we're around.
Mhm. Yeah. And, you can only do so much to surround yourself with supportive people. But then it comes to a point where you have to tell those people, whether supportive or not, like, hey, I don't need to hear this right now. Or,
Mhm.
hey, this is our decision. I need you to respect that. I need you to, not have a conversation with me about that because, whether it's, I'm going to touch on my own personal life here. My husband and I both agree that like you don't need to give Tylenol to a child for every little thing,
Yeah.
especially with like a fever. Let's just like let it run its course, the body do its thing.
Hmm.
And so many people are like, "Have you given them Tylenol?" Hey, can we just take a deep breath here and let my child's body do what it needs
Yeah.
to do to heal? And so it's like, I don't need all this outside
Hmm.
noise coming in, flooding my brain, flooding my relationship with my husband and our decision making because we got this. We can
Hmm.
trust in our abilities right here and right now. So,
Definitely.
yeah.
That's a good, and part, I don't know, this makes me think of just like how divisive a lot of things can be
Yeah.
and like how just offensive we get and like it becomes part of our identity. And it's just like, again, by you saying, my husband and I, we talked about this, we've decided this is what we believe, this is what's important to us,
Yeah.
this is what we're going to do. I also don't hear you saying every other parent should also do this and they are awful parents if they do that. But that's what some people hear then. They're like, oh,
Right.
well, now you're saying I'm, and you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. We
No.
don't have to like fight about this. You can do what is best for you and your family, and I can do what's best for me and mine. We can all have a seat at the table here. Like, we don't need to be going back and forth over this.
Yeah, all of our children are gonna eat dirt at one point or another. Like they're all gonna turn out pretty much the same. It's
Yeah.
gonna be okay.
Like,
So
how long have we been around without some of these like new advanced things? And like, the human race has survived for a long time. So, like,
yes,
we're gonna be okay.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I just you know, and it's hard to come to that place if you don't have, maybe the best communication, the best really, my gosh, my husband and I don't have the best communication sometimes. But like, if you don't have a solid foundation, it can be really hard to come to those agreements. And so, whenever you're getting all of this outside
Mhm.
noise about all of these big, massive decisions, so to speak, but they're really just tiny, minute decisions, it can really, you know, tear a relationship down,
Mhm.
unfortunately, sometimes. And so you have to really be careful about who you allow into your space. So,
Spot on. It makes me think of, I don't know if in your program you watch this video, but there's like the It's Not About the Nail video of communication. And it's like this couple talking on, it's like a minute and a half long. You'll have to Google
oh,
it. And it's like the guy is, saying, oh, we're just trying to like go into fix it mode. And the wife's like, you're not listening to me. And like the whole time she has this knife in her, or this nail in her head. And this makes me think of this too, of like,
yeah.
there's so many of these things going on in parenting and this adjustment that
Mhm.
it also can like tap into something deeper though. Like we're often not fighting about Tylenol. It's,
Right.
well, are you making me feel belittled for my choices? Are you making me feel, am I feeling insecure now? Am I feeling like not enough? Am I feeling disconnected from you because we just had a fight about this? Like that's what we're really fighting about there.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And, I don't primarily do couples therapy, but I feel like sometimes it turns into kind of some relationship work because postpartum, your relationships are bonkers at
Oh,
that point. Everything's kind of just shifting.
mm-hmm.
Everybody's turning into new people, but still the same person
Mm-hmm.
with the history of communication that you've had. And so I end up working a lot with these moms on their relationships with their husbands because it's just different.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not about the nail, it's not about the Tylenol, it's not about the way you choose to feed your baby. It's about the relationship
Mm-hmm.
that kind of grows under that. So yeah, it's really interesting.
Oh, I bet. Oh yeah, I don't do couples often anymore either. It's a whole other ball game. But yeah, I mean, it's a part, like you said, like this perinatal period is this whole umbrella thing, and you'd be missing a piece of it if we're not addressing that. That whether it's your first child or even your second, third, fourth, like those are still
Mm-hmm.
adjustments and things going on that are going to impact that relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I know something else that we were going to talk about was self-care in this stage of life. And I love self-care. I'm a big proponent of self-care. I'm also realistic with self-care. As much as I would love to tell the world you take a bubble bath and all of your problems are going to be cured, I'm not that naive. But it's still important. And so what the heck does self-care look like during the perinatal period?
Yeah. So I was thinking about this beforehand, and I'm like, yeah, I'd love to be a bubble bath kind of person. Um, but I'm just not. I can't. I can't sit still for that long. I love the fact that other people can do that. That's just not me. And so whenever I was thinking about this, I'm like, okay, maybe not everybody wants to have a 30-minute to an hour,
Well, they
soaking
might not
bubble
also
bath.
have the time. Like,
Exactly.
I'm
Like,
not
or am
naive
I
that
gonna
some
fall asleep and
like I'm so tired from maybe not sleeping an hour last night. I'm gonna fall
yeah.
asleep in the bathtub.
Exactly. Or, walking is my thing. I have a vision board for this year and I'm doing wonderful with it, which I'm like, woohoo, how long is this going to last? But like taking a walk
Yeah.
outside with my family is my self care. I just love getting outside in the fresh air, maybe even touch the grass every now and then for a little bit of a grounding moment. Um, but yes, let's be realistic here about what self care looks like. So I was thinking back to my pregnancy, and I was like, I didn't want to do a darn thing during
Mhm.
my pregnancy. I would come home from work after working long hours and then decide I'm going to go to bed 2 or 3 hours early. And so
Yes.
maybe in that period of time, self care is just listening to your body. I mean,
Yes.
overall, self care is that, right? Like you have to really be mindful and aware of what your body needs in that moment. And so for me, in that period of time, it was going to bed so early or taking multiple naps during the weekends
Yes.
because it's real, it's totally fair. And so moving into postpartum life and adjusting to motherhood and things like that, maybe self care is, chilling on the couch for 5 or 10 minutes and then getting up and doing what you need to do. Or maybe self care is actually folding the laundry to feel like you have the house together,
Mhm.
to feel like you have control of your life. Because you oftentimes, lose that
Yeah.
ability to control in your life whenever you have kids. And so it's like, okay, how can I grasp at that a little bit more to also keep in touch with who I am
Mhm.
before kids. So really, it's just, okay, what do I need in this moment?
Mhm.
It's always a question that I'm asking myself. So yeah.
I'm so glad to hear that because I can only speak, with limited experiences, not having children, and
Mm-hmm.
it's. I always use the definition of self-care. It doesn't have to be lavish, doesn't have to be expensive or long. It's simply listening to what you need. Sometimes my self-care is drinking a glass of water that day or taking a few deep breaths before something. And so I love your examples of sometimes it's doing like not doing something and it's allowing ourselves to rest because our bodies are going through all these wild changes and it's tired and you need that energy. Or maybe it's I like that idea of like not doing the cleaning because that's what we're supposed to do, right? So it's not
Mm-hmm.
cleaning
Yeah.
because, oh, I need to have this perfect house, but it's what do I have control over in this moment? Like there might be chaos and overwhelm going on. Let me mindlessly put my clothes away and have some sort of resemblance of like a normalcy life.
Yes. Yeah. I feel like I have things kind of put together in my life whenever everything else is unraveling. Yeah.
Yes.
Definitely.
One of my favorite books is How to Keep House While Drowning. I don't know if you ever read it.
No, I
Um,
haven't.
it's wonderful though. And she talks about that. It's a therapist who also has ADHD and children. And it's just like, you don't need to do all the things, but like just do something once in a
Yeah.
while. She has like a
Yes.
touch five things method. So it's like, just touch a few things before you go to bed. Doesn't have to all be done. It's okay.
Oh man, I need that in my life. Thank you for that little tidbit. I need to go get that book.
Oh, and
Yes.
yeah, she has ADHD, so like all the chapters are like 2 pages, 4 pages long. This is
Oh,
for busy,
perfect.
overwhelmed moms. Like, what busy, overwhelmed mom is going to read like 20 pages before they like
Right.
Nobody.
No,
So,
I'm gonna fall asleep after the second sentence. Like it's
right?
okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Which that might be
Yeah.
your self-care though. So nothing wrong with that.
Exactly. I also want to touch on the fact that like, you know, I feel like society does a really great job at telling moms to take care of themselves. And a lot of the times, for the majority of society, that can look like leaving the house, leaving baby. And I know that at least with my experience, I honestly haven't really wanted to do that.
Mhm.
Um, for right now, it's more work, it's more mental load, it's more worry, and maybe even sometimes anxiety about leaving the house. And so at this moment in time, I'm accepting and loving the fact that I'm chilling at home a lot of the times.
Yes.
And that is what's good for me.
Yes.
Because if I sit there and listen to my body when, I get an invitation to go do this or go do that, I'm like, oh, do I really want to go? Like, it brings up a
Right?
lot more emotion for me
Mhm.
than I would want it to, really.
Yeah.
And so at some point in the near future, I'm sure I'll be gallivanting around town on a Saturday, but like that's just not me right now, and that's
Yeah.
okay. So
Giving
yeah.
yourself that permission. I think that's so important because again, we're here to really figure out listening to our body, figuring out what we need, not comparing ourselves with other people. And so I just had a guest on a couple weeks ago where that's their self-care was some of that separation. And it's
Mhm.
like that's
Yeah.
wonderful for them. That's how they recharge. They've done the work to notice what their body needs, what their emotions need, what that mental load is, and that works for them.
Hmm.
This also works for you where you're like,
Yes.
I'm gonna have to then plan this thing and do all this. And am I really gonna even feel that recharge or is it gonna take more work? So no, I'm giving myself that permission to do what's best for me. And I think you're now giving the other folks who are listening to this of, well, do what's best for you. If you want to sit
Hmm.
at home on the weekends and be cozy and enjoy and connect with your hobbies and your values and these other things that are important to you, you can do that. If you want
Hmm.
some of that space and that separation, there's options for that too, and I love that.
Yeah. You just again have to find what works best for you. So.
Yes. Yeah, we're stopping that comparison game, like,
Mhm.
ugh, it's gotta stop.
Everybody's an individual. Let's let it
Yes.
be that way. Yeah.
Yeah, like, listen to take nothing else from this chat, just listen to your body and do what's best for you. You are a good mom, like,
Hmm.
sewing that on a pillow. Well,
Yeah.
I just wanna thank you for your time and sharing some of your own personal experiences and also some of the things that you've worked with clients. That perinatal mental health is such a huge gap, and I think there's becoming more trainings and resources, and I think more people are starting to lessening that stigma and shame of asking for help around this time. So thank you for the work that you do. The question that I like to end with, folks, is what are you doing or how have you been practicing authenticity lately?
Hmm. I think it's just a continuation of this conversation that we had.
Yes.
So, for me, obviously, like I'm just not leaving the house because that's what feels good for me. I'm also
Mhm.
kind of a homebody. I guess I should put that in there. So I'm just not one to leave the house, anyways. But this particular stage of my life is incredibly and utterly busy. Like, I don't think I ever really imagined how busy it would be and how pulled and torn between so many different aspects of my life I would be. And so, being mom, being, wife and partner, being, a family member, and like all these different roles on top of being a business owner. Like, I just, woke up one day after having my kiddo and I was like, I should start a private practice for moms. Like,
Naturally.
this is a great time to do this, right? And so, gosh, when like I need to be authentic and allow myself to take the time to really think about what I need in this moment. And that is the most authentic to myself that I can be right now because so much of my life has been, well, I have to do this. I have to get this done. I'm an Enneagram one. Everything has to be
Me
perfect. It has to be
too.
placed.
Besties.
And so it's like I just need to sit here and listen to myself. And it sounds so simple, but it's taken a lot of work to get here.
Yes.
And so being authentic right now just looks like allowing myself to sit on my phone for an evening and doom scroll on Instagram if that's what it is. Or it can also be coming into my office and doing some business work that I love. Or it can also be doing stuff that I hate doing,
Mhm.
whatever that is. And so it's just okay, what do I need in this moment? What would help me feel more fulfilled and more balanced in my life at that moment?
That spoke to me. And then you said you're an Enneagram 1. So that totally checks out because I don't know about
Ah,
you, but yeah, I kind of thrive in the busy seasons.
yeah.
And then life got like too busy because I'm like
Mhm.
in a busy season, I can stay, but I don't, I just going. I can make my little list. I can do the things. And then all of a sudden, like I had to kind of have a little chat with myself in January because I do my vision boards as well.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I can slow down. Like, I don't need to keep growing and hustling and doing these things. Like, I'm gonna get into my romantasy books and take half
Mhm.
a day and just not be at my computer. And I'm gonna lay like earlier before our chat today, I was just sitting on my couch eating some veggie straws, watching Instagram videos, and like that's okay. So I think sounds like you doing a lot of work on just like again, it's a work in progress. It sounds easy, like,
Yes.
oh, it must be so hard to just like sit and do nothing. Like
Yeah.
it is when we have this little thought and these patterns
Mhm.
that we're changing. And so it's, I think, and then one of my guests said, simple doesn't mean easy. So it
Mm.
sounds like, yeah, like it might be
Yeah.
simple to say, well, listen to yourself, listen to what your
Mhm.
body needs.
Yeah.
It's not always the easy thing to do.
No,
So,
it's not. Yeah.
we'll
I
preach
love
it.
it.
Well, thank you again so much.
Of
Folks
course.
can follow along with your sites. I'm going to post all that information. Like I said, I checked out her website already and was like, if I lived in the same state, I would probably call her for therapy, but I live in a different state. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, Alicia. It was good to be here.
Well, until next time, take care of yourselves and each other. And remember, the world needs the real you. So let's explore that authenticity together.